focus on what Obama just did last night. Remember Loretta Lynch, how the Republicans put up a fake fight and said that they were going to oppose her? Well, she's now in there, and I warned you she was worse than Holder. Didn't I tell you she was going to be worse than Holder because she's a woman? She's got a double going for her. She's got a double protexia around her. So now she announces immediately, not that she's going to look into disarming the gangs in the cities, not that she's going to look into the communist front groups that were responsible for all the violence and the terrorism in our streets, but she's going to grant $163 million to these thuggish groups. The ACLU is a criminal organization, as you know, with law degrees. They're the cowardly side of the revolution. The ACLU are the cowards who hide behind law degrees. They work with the actual street thugs who do the damage. Do you understand how this works? So she's going to put in new guidelines in cities to teach police how to behave toward the gangs. Now that leads us to the Gestapo is born. Upon becoming Chancellor of Germany, Adolf Hitler had appointed Hermann Göring as Minister of the Interior for the state of Prussia. As Minister of the Interior, Göring thereby had control of the police. That's the Attorney General. She's fundamentally the Minister of the Interior. The Attorney General is our Minister of the Interior. So in Germany, Göring had control of the police. She doesn't have control of our local police because we have a constitution. We have state governments, which are supposed to function separately from the federal government to avoid a dictatorship. But we have a man who was a madman in the White House, surrounded by demagogues who want to take over every aspect of our lives. The first thing Göring did was to prohibit regular, uniformed police from interfering with Nazi brown shirts out in the streets. So I said, well, what does that have to do with America? There are no Nazi brown shirts. Yes, there are. They're the gangs. They're the thugs who just burnt Baltimore. They are the brown shirts. They burnt Baltimore. First they tried Ferguson and they got away with it. Then they had the president covering for them, putting out the false narrative of the gentle giant, who was actually a criminal, trying to kill a cop. So he covered for them, and these thugs are now controlling Ferguson and Baltimore. And so let's go back again to history. Göring, first thing he did was prohibit regular uniformed police from interfering with Nazi brown shirts out in the streets. This meant that innocent German citizens had no one to turn to as they were being beaten up by rowdy young stormtroopers. Well, do we have stormtroopers? No, we don't have rowdy young stormtroopers. We have rowdy young thugs, inner city thugs. And what did these young stormtroopers do? These young Nazi toughs took full advantage of police leniency to loot shops at will and terrorize Jews or anyone else unfortunate enough to be caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, did they loot in Ferguson? You betcha. Did they loot in Baltimore? You betcha. Did they terrorize people? You betcha. So what's the parallel, boys and girls? The Gestapo was born in Germany. Obama is giving birth to a Gestapo in America. His gangs are called victims. The police are called thugs. He's reversed everything. Now, that's just one topic. Now, we have another story that I have to talk about. I've still not seen any photographs or video, even B-roll, of the so-called killing of Abu Sayyaf, the key ISIS figure, killed in a daring U.S. raid by Delta forces, where all of our troops returned safely. They even captured his wife, and they captured heavy intelligence. I'd like to believe it's true, but given that Obama's a liar, and given that this report about this special operations raid in eastern Syria overnight Friday to Saturday came after they took another city, I think it's just as likely to be Capricorn 1 and propaganda. I hope I'm wrong. But what good did it do? They took him. Let's say they did take him. The next day, the next city fell. And here's another question about the so-called war being run by the Golfer moron in the White House, Satan. Are you ready for this one? The victory parade after they took Ramadi. I'm talking about ISIS. A column a half a mile long of their pickup trucks with machine guns. One A-10 could have wrecked the entire column, destroyed them. One sortie by one airplane could have wiped out the entire column. Why the hell didn't Obama launch that A-10? Because they're on our side. I am telling you right now that this is the biggest scam in your life. There's no explanation for this. And further proof to my suspicion that ISIS is actually being funded by the United States government is this. Do you remember last week the Pentagon asked the media to scrap old footage of ISIS columns? Did you hear this? Do you remember what they said? Pentagon spokesman Colonel Stephen Warren said, please stop using stock footage that makes the terror army seem more mobile and more formidable than they say it actually is. He said they don't travel like that anymore. And he said, quote, one Toyota speeding down the road by itself at night with his headlights off would be a more accurate image. Really, Mr. Spokesman, Colonel Stephen Warren? Yesterday I saw a column of Toyotas a half a mile long, and you and your brave air boys did nothing. They were told to stand down the same way they were told to stand down at Benghazi by the... I don't know. I can't say it. I really would like to say what I don't understand how the Republicans let them get away with it. The answer is because they're the same. Don't you understand there is no Republican Party? There's no Democrat Party. Don't you understand yet that it's a single block of a ruling class and we're the moron serfs? And it's so bad that if my suspicion is correct, that ISIS is an arm of the United States government, in other words, a proxy army, that we, the citizens of this country, by permitting the charlatan in the White House to get away with this charade of a war against ISIS, we are responsible for the kidnappings. We're responsible for the rapes of children. We're responsible for the slavery of non-Muslims. We are the devil themselves for letting this character get away with it without demanding more. Now, of course, you say, what can I do? I understand that. You saw that George Staphylococcus is nothing but a paid whore. We understood that from day one. Did he ever look like anything but a paid whore? I mean, you're shocked that he's a paid whore and gave money to the Clinton Foundation? You're shocked that George Stephanopoulos looks like a male escort? He's been a male escort of the Democrat Party from the day he started. He never was a journalist. Never. He's always been a pretty boy escort for the Democrat Party. We have now in America what I've said for 10 years. We have reporters who suddenly call themselves journalists who are nothing more than fifth columnists disguised as members of the Fourth Estate. We have no Fourth Estate. I am the Fourth Estate. Drudge is the Fourth Estate. About 10 websites of the Fourth Estate. That's it. There is no Fourth Estate. Do you know what the Fourth Estate is? Okay, it's the Fourth Estate. We're supposed to stick our fingers into the side of the liars in government. We're supposed to be those who keep them in line. We're supposed to be the burr in the saddle of ABC, CBS, NBC, and NYT. But when we become the same as them and we're not the burr in the saddle, what are we? Prostitutes. And so therefore, I say to you, circling back to my first story, on the headline, we were told over the weekend that the Great Delta Force killed a key ISIS figure, Abu Sayyaf, and then they captured his wife and great intelligence, and all the Delta forces came home without a scratch on their shiny badges. Well, I hope it's true, but we haven't seen one picture yet. Now, if it is true and we haven't seen one picture yet, the only reason is because Harvey Weinstein is still in Cannes. He's probably on a yacht enjoying an after party from the film festival, and he hasn't gotten back to make the movie yet to show it. To show us Capricorn 2, produced by Obama Inc., the new worldwide dictatorship that's emerging. You got the race hater in the White House every day now giving a speech, turning black against white, white against black, black against Asian, Asian against black, every day in every way, the same rotten, stinking people running the world. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I, Michael Savage, trust to buy my gold and silver from. Here we have ISIS taking over one major city after another, and this clown is talking about climate change posing a threat to national security. Only in America could it get away with it because we no longer have a Fourth Estate. We have a fifth column with a single party of left-wing demagogues running everything from top to bottom. Welcome to the show, hour number 2. Hour number 1 I spent explaining to you what went on in Germany in the 1930s on the birth of the Gestapo under Adolf Hitler, how it was done step by step, stage by stage. And I compared it to what he's doing to our police in this country, step by step, day by day, city by city. I'm not going to repeat myself. It'll be up on the, I suppose it'll be webcast, however they do this, podcast on various and sundry websites before the end of the day. I suggest you listen to it and share it with people. You're very lucky that you have me on the radio. I rarely blow my own horn. People think I'm very egotistical and I do too much of it, but you actually don't know I don't do much of it at all. The thing is that were it not for the quirks of the socialist government that you're living in, you wouldn't even be hearing me. I would have been a college professor of ethnobotany and never heard from, except in scholarly circles. But because they cauterized me through the fascism of liberalism and drove me away from the universities, I come before you fully developed and fully educated in so many areas. And as a result, I see the truth and I don't wait. Now, it has been written that God sees the truth but waits. Thomas Mann wrote that in one of his short stories. I was very impressed with it. And it was about the nihilism of Germany after World War I, before the Nazis arose during the liberal Weimar Republic. The country was out of control. Liberalism had destroyed the social order. Young gangs were roving the streets of Germany doing what they're doing today in America. And it was fascism that came along because the people were demanding law and order. And now we have the grand illusionist that we're dealing with. And you know what's hard for me to believe? Is that every day he gets worse. It's not as though, see, this is a pathology here we're dealing with. We're actually dealing with a very ill man. He is so demonically ill that he doesn't even realize does he realize what he's doing? I ask myself every day. How can a man get up every day and while looking at himself in the, you get up, wash your face, go to the bathroom, you look at yourself in the mirror, you comb your hair, brush your teeth, whatever. Does he say to himself, what can I do to destroy white America today? How can I destroy the power structure every day? How can I weaken this country even further? Is that what he's doing? Because there's no other explanation for his activities. It's as though a man wakes up every day and says, how can I weaken the European-American dominance of this country? How can I make this country less racist, which is a code word for weakening white America? I'm sorry, you want a conversation on race? Didn't Eric Holder say we're cowards? Didn't Eric Holder say that we're too cowardly to have a discussion on race? Well, let's have a discussion on race. He wants us to talk about it. I am talking about it. I am so sick and tired of hearing how evil white men are. I am so sick and tired of hearing how oppressed the black people are. I am so sick and tired of hearing how great every Hispanic is that I want to have a conversation on race. So that's what we're doing. We're having a conversation on race. Since Eric Holder said that we're all cowards on it. White men are evil, Hispanics are all Einsteins, and black men are all oppressed. That's the narrative every day. And your poor daughter goes to college. This poor child you gave birth to has to go and listen to these communist cockamamie lunatics who tell her she has white privilege. She could have multiple sclerosis and come from a poor home. They'll tell her if she's European American she has white privilege. That's what your daughter has to put up with, this massive Soviet-style propaganda under this grand illusionist. Now, if it's too much for you, I accept that. I accept it. I look around, I see people in the streets, they don't want to know any of this. I have neighbors who are the biggest idiots I've ever seen in my life. They don't listen to the radio, they don't watch television. They actually proudly say, well, I don't watch TV news. I don't listen to no radio. I only listen to NPR. Good for you. National Public Radio. You mean National Obama Radio, don't you? Remember there was a day when the Republican Party tried to defund NPR? What happened to those days?
Savage.